Good morning, Turfs Up Radio. Wayne Bowles, Profits Unlimited, coming to you live from Louisville, Kentucky. Yes, indeedy. Oh, my goodness. Got a late start today. Got a little bit of rain going on, or we did earlier. It's about moved through here now, so the whole day's not a wash. But you know what? It's Monday, so here we are. We're back at it again. We'll be on April 21st. Moving through another month, it's hard to believe that here we are, April 21st, 2025, and it was just January. But hey, it is what it is, and times are moving by, and that's all right. That's what it is. We did, like I said, got a late start. Guys got in here about 9 o'clock this morning and got squared away and got out about 9:15 or so, 9:20, and we're in a mow mode today. It sounds crazy that a lot of rain days you'd say, well, hey, we're going to do this, but we didn't have enough rain not to stop, basically. You know, yeah, it's wet. It's going to be a little damp, but I mean, it wasn't like we had, an inch of rain or anything like that overnight. I didn't even look and see what we had. Matter of fact, could real quick look here at our BAM app and see what we had, but it wasn't much, but it was enough to just put us on a late start. So yeah, we're out and about, and that's what we're going to do today. Because you guys hear me talk about it a lot. We're early part in the week's our heavy load of mow. So by the time we hit Wednesday, we're almost done. Thursday, we generally are done. So Monday, we hammer it out pretty hard. That's the way we do our mowing here. You guys know it, but so yeah, that's why we, on a Monday, we're gonna go if we can go and get it done. So we're throwing the resources at, doing that today. We have a crew leader in the hospital, so it's not a life or death situation, I don't think, but he's been out for a few days. Derek's been with us, I don't know, 35, 36 years, and I don't know. Last week he was not feeling good. And about Wednesday, he decided to stay home a couple days and reached out yesterday and said he was in the hospital and they were going to keep him for a couple days. They'll try to figure out what's going on. So having a hard time, getting his breath and breathing and feeling better. So I share that with you guys, not to give you his medical history, but to, just, hey, if you believe in God or whatnot, or whoever you believe in, give me a shout out, give him a prayer, and hopefully he gets better. So, yeah, that's what's going on here. But, yeah, appreciate the text for sure. Appreciate that. And appreciate you guys listening to us and looking forward to a great show today. I had a special guest I'm going to put on my show here in just a couple minutes with me, James from Evansville. And he just dropped in on us like 10 minutes before we were getting ready to go on. I was actually wrapping up my show notes, and I'm like, oh my God, man, good to see you. So yeah, we're going to have James here with us, and we're just going to talk about his business. And but first of all, I want to give Daniel a big shout out on his show, and Aaron Walls. Aaron, appreciate your show this morning. I was listening in on that as well. So, and here we are, round 3. It's my turn. So appreciate you guys listening, and let's see what we got. Beautiful wet spring day in Litchfield. I hear you, Seth. It is, man. It is. It's but I appreciate you listening to us while you're out and about and doing your thing today. So wanted to reach out to Ben Taylor, our SCAG rep from Midwest Equipment. Again, he dropped off at one of the Jackals for us to try this week for a few days. We'll talk about that too, James. Yeah, so Aaron, I want to tell you, I'm going to let James tell you what he does in Evansville here in a minute. So, but anyway, hey, let's tell you what, let's just bring James on. James, appreciate you dropping in on me this morning, man.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, you never know. I told him, I met James, I don't know, a long, long time ago.
22 years ago.
Is that how long it's been? I was going to say about 20 years. Dang, gone 22 years ago at a seminar down there at Scotty's lawn equipment that we do each year for them down there for they always have their Pro Cutter University Day the last Wednesday of February.
Yep.
And I met James down there, and we've kind of grown up together, really. I mean, you go back 22 years. God, I was 40.
Yeah.
How old are you?
57.
So 37. So yeah, man, we've kind of seen a lot of things come and go and change. And
Yep.
so tell our listeners a little bit about your business and what you did, what you do now, because he's transitioned like a lot of businesses. A lot of we start off doing one thing, we transition into something a little differently, kind of like a grub worm, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
We start out in the larva stage, just crawling around, you know, and then
Trying to
finally
figure
we
out.
decide we're going to fly.
There you go. No, 24 years ago in February, I started this company after leaving a family owned business for several years and started out in mowing grass. Uh, thought thought things were great until I met Wayne. Then I found out I wasn't charging enough, so got on your program in the second year, and it just took off from there.
Dang on, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, phenomenal program. And I was mowing up until about 3 years ago with the industry trying to find those quality employees.
Right.
I had to make some changes because I'm really picky about how things are done. And that's maybe a taboo for me, but I just got to the point where the workforce just wasn't putting out the quality that I wanted. So we switched directions and we started going more towards landscaping. And then now I'm really big into the water features.
Yeah, I knew you were saying that just a minute ago. The koi ponds.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And
so how did you what pushed you to that direction?
Well, I like to install the water features themselves, the bubble rocks, the pondless waterfalls, all that fun stuff. And I always had people asking me questions about ponds. And so I thought, well, let's start learning about them. So I got my nose deep into the books and started reading up on the stuff. And I've just fallen in love with it. And I've got my own koi pond at home now. I've got 13 amazing fish. And I'm actually looking to add on to my pond.
When did you start providing that as a service to your customers?
And only about 3 years ago.
Okay.
And it's taken off. It's been a lot of guys are getting out of it, especially in my area.
What's the drawback to it? Why they get out?
I guess the younger generation doesn't see the value in the koi ponds as much as I even do, and there's just not a lot of guys in my area that do it anymore. So
what do people do with their fish in our market to where it can get cold enough to freeze?
Well, if your pond's deep enough, they'll overwinter at the bottom of the pond.
Okay.
So you're fine. I mean,
but the feeding them is not an issue.
No. Basically, when they go into hibernation mode, you don't have to feed them at all. So,
okay.
And then they just kind of hang out. On a sunny day, they will come up and swim around some, but typically they're chilling at the bottom of the pond. So
nice. And how big of a pond does it take to have a? I know I've seen different size, ponds out.
Yeah.
But what's somebody like say, hey, a customer, how do you recommend what somebody, hey, this is a size you may like? If you're coming to look and talk to me.
Well, basically, one is obviously the area that you've got to work
yeah.
with. The second thing is if they want fish, are they going to want a lot of fish? Do they want them to get big? Because koi will grow in the areas that they have to grow. So if you put them in a small pond, they're not going to grow as big as if you put them into a bigger pond.
Oh, okay. I did not realize that.
They adapt to their surroundings. So there's a lot of factors with it, but most people a 15 by 20 pond is probably a common starting point. And then when I'm putting these ponds in, I'm always looking for ways to maybe expand it in the future, because once they fall in love with their fish, they want to make them a better place.
Yeah. How's their survival rate? Pretty good?
Great.
I mean, when you were kids, you'd buy a goldfish and like, okay, it lasts 2 or 3 days,
Yeah. Yep. I've actually got over in Owensboro, Kentucky, I've got a woman that she has a koi pond she's got 7 koi in it that she's had for over 27 years.
Oh
And they're
my.
probably a foot and a half to 2 foot long.
So she's got a big
Oh,
one then,
it's
isn't it?
it's actually she downsized her pond after her fish grew, and they're
Yeah.
actually in a really small pond now. But yeah, she's uh she's got some pretty healthy fish over
That's a
there.
big fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. So what's the maintenance on your side as a contractor? How do you make money on a pond? Obviously the installation.
Installation, and then
Is it the maintenance afterwards?
the maintenance afterwards. When you get a pond in, sell them a maintenance package where you come by on a monthly basis and just keep things clean. Make sure that there's no
A little bit.
algae growing, and just help them maintain that pond water to where their fish are doing well.
And how problematic is that?
It can be, especially if it's in the full sun.
Yeah.
There's a lot of you get a lot of algae problems in those ponds. But typically, if you stay on top of it, you can keep it under control pretty good.
So what's a maintenance program look like for Wayne's got a pond in his backyard? Is it, do you come by once a
Once
month?
a month. Yep. So, and it includes the startups in the springtime, the clean outs in the springtime, the maintenance throughout the summer.
When you say clean out, what leaves or debris that get in
Leaves
it?
and debris. Yeah. For me, I typically try to sell a customer to pull the pond down every other year. Uh, Basically take it down to nothing, pressure wash everything, get everything all cleaned up, and then bring it back again. Um, if they can afford that, that's what I recommend. If not, we do the best that we can as long as we can until the gunk on the bottom just gets so bad that we have to do a takedown all the
You
way.
got to do it.
Yeah. And then we also do the nettings in the fall, keep the majority of the leaves out, and then the shutdown if they don't want to run their pond throughout the winter months.
If they're not running it, what do they traditionally do with their fish?
Leave them in the pond. You just got to make sure that the pond stays open, that the water doesn't freeze completely over, so that there's oxygen that's getting into the system.
Good deal, man. This guy says he loves our conversation
Oh,
today.
good.
He said because uncle's had a koi pond in Morgantown for probably 25 years, about 20 by 20.
That's a big
this
pond.
Office.
Yeah,
This
pond.
office is 19 feet that we're sitting in, so that's a big pond.
Yep.
That's probably brings on a little more maintenance, doesn't it?
Oh yeah,
Is it like a bigger swimming pool?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean that's what it amounts to, right? You got a swimming pool, you're taking care of only fish.
Only fish, and if you don't stay on. And a good example, a couple of weeks ago, we did a clean out. The guy hadn't maintained the pond, and hadn't drained the pond down in probably 6 or 7 years, and we pulled it all the way down and cleaned it up. We were there for 13 and a half hours, and there was rhizomes on the lilies that were as big as my arm because it hadn't been cleaned out in so long.
Okay, speak English to me. What's rhizome?
That's basically it's Bermuda grass. You know
Okay.
how Bermuda grass grows?
Okay.
Got the little rhizomes.
Right. So it's the same concept.
Same concept, but with
Okay.
with a water lily, and they were huge. We had some sections we were pulling out that were 6 or 7 feet long, that were as big as my arm.
That's pretty crazy.
And you shouldn't really let it get that bad, but
how do the fish like it? Seriously,
they love it. They eat. They actually eat. Some of the fish will eat the lily pads.
Okay. Now, is there much maintenance from the fish standpoint, like feeding the fish, or?
Yeah, I mean, you need.
How do you feed
them?
I'm just curious now. I'm just getting educated myself, really. I mean, do you feed them once a day, once a week? How do you feed a fish?
I feed my fish at home. I feed them once a day, but I don't feed them a bunch. But yeah, I'll come out of a nighttime. I shake my dispenser, and they all come up to the top. I throw a handful of food in. And
they know you're there to feed them.
Oh yeah, yep. And you build a rapport with these fish.
You ever hook them?
No.
No.
Now, if the economy doesn't shape up, we might be eating them one day. No,
no.
Kidding. Just kidding.
Yeah, we don't need any phone calls. But no, I bet my brother, he's got a pond. He's up in Scottsburg, Indiana, a regular pond, not a koi pond,
Oh, yeah.
and with catfish in it. And he puts dog food. He
Oh,
feeds
yeah.
them with dog food,
Yep.
and it's crazy, man. When I don't know how they know it's him walking up there, but whenever he gets there, man, the water just starts churning. They're just there waiting, knowing that he's going to be throwing that dog food in there.
Exactly.
And the first time I saw it, it was crazy. I'm like, man, could you fish with dog food in here? He's like, man, you ain't going to do that to my fish. You know, if you want to fish, you can throw a worm, but you ain't going to trick him. He said, hell. Like,
You gotta be fair.
I didn't realize you could use dog food for fish, you
Yeah.
know, but how with a koi like that, is there different varieties of those things?
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't like, and this is going to sound a little weird maybe, but there's an Oriental restaurant I go to that has a pretty decent sized koi pond
Mm-hmm.
in the lobby.
Yep.
And there's like some of the traditional gold ones,
Yeah.
but there's some white ones that are sparkled and stuff like that in it. Is that due to just a light issue in their facility, or can you get certain ones? You know, they're like dogs, like
Yeah, they're all different colors. Yeah.
you know, poodles and German shepherds and that. So.
Yes. In fact, it's kind of funny that you mentioned that because I'm up here seeing my significant other, and she's got a next door neighbor that's got a koi pond, and he's got a beautiful. This thing's probably 24 inches long. It's almost yellow. And I said, man, the house is up for sale. I'm hoping that the new owners don't want the fish, and I'll go buy the fish because I just want the yellow one.
You just want the fish.
Oh, it looks amazing. I mean, this thing
Yeah.
is just phenomenal. But yeah, they come in all shapes and sizes and colors.
What would you say? What's a normal size for your customers? What are
About probably 12 to 15 inches.
okay?
So they get pretty big.
All right, and then like waterfalls rolling down into them. Is that something y'all
Yep.
do with them?
Oh, yeah.
And that's just to keep the water
Aerate it.
moving and aerate it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That sounds really cool, man. The few that I've seen look really nice.
Yeah.
God, we were doing a leaf cleanup job one time for a guy, and had leaves all over the place and didn't see the damn pond, and the guy stepped in the pond.
Whoops.
Honest to God, true story. Sure did, and guy stepped in the pond, and we were worried that it might have cracked the liner,
Oh, yeah.
you know, when he went in, but it did not.
Yeah.
That's what the customer's concern was, because when he went in, he tripped and he had a backpack blower on and literally fell in the pond.
So he was wet.
Oh yeah, he got wet. Derek, it's the guy that I was telling you that's in the hospital.
Oh, okay.
It was actually him many years ago. He fell in this guy's koi pond up.
Oh, fun time.
Oh God, James, I need you to come clean my pond out with my landscape. My mowing guy fell in the pond, you know. So if it happens, you can say, well, yeah, that probably true story. What happened to Wayne?
Yep.
You know,
Definitely.
but weird things happen. But what's a maintenance contract go for on something like that?
It's all going to depend on the size. Kind of like, mowing grass,
Yeah.
a quarter acre is going to be a lot less than an
Than
acre
an
and a
acre.
half, 2
Yeah.
acres. So it's all dependent on the size, how many plants they've got, how many fish they've
So
got.
do you do their plants too for them?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So because basically on the plant side of things, you want to keep them contained in baskets so that they don't overtake the pond. So
All right.
you take those out, you clean them up in the fall, and do your trimming back in the fall, and get them ready.
Where do you get the fish? Where do you order them?
Yeah,
Or,
yeah. I've got a company in town that I use that will order them. They're
Okay.
a little fish store.
do they survive well?
Oh yeah.
I mean, like from getting, or is there like a significant die rate or
No,
whatever
they
you
do
call it?
fine. They ship fine whenever they bring them in. It's amazing that they come in a cardboard box and you got a fish in a plastic bag, and they do fine.
And what's one cost?
Again,
A size, yeah.
size is going to range. I mean, some of these fish can be thousands of dollars.
Oh my God, I
Yeah.
had no idea.
Yeah. So, if you want to start them out small and raise them as
Yeah.
your kids, and then hopefully when you retire, you can sell a couple of them to live on.
Daniel, one year for Christmas, I'm not even gonna call this thing a fish tank. It was just a fish bowl, and we got him when he was younger, and had put a fish in it. Wood died in about 2 days, so we went up and got a little bit bigger one. That thing ended up Hey, Daniel, how long did Kissy live? 7 years. He had one survive 7 years
In
with
a fishbowl.
in a fishbowl.
Yep.
Yeah, sure did.
So probably didn't have an aerator
No
or
aerator
plants,
in it.
nothing.
No, just water. And every once in a while we'd clean the water out,
Yep.
And but yeah, and then one day it was really weird. One day I went in to wake Daniel up for school, and the fish was out of the tank. It had jumped out.
Ah, yep.
I mean, yeah, it was right after we got Lacey.
Hmm.
So I don't know if Lacey was in there, and I mean Lacey didn't knock the fish out,
Yeah.
but I mean, I don't know. And it Kissy was its name. Kissy was there on the floor all dried. I'm like, oh my God. Got to tell Daniel's fish is dead, And
Flush it down the toilet. Go get another.
yeah. So anyway, that we had Lacey then. So I don't know. It worked out okay. Daniel was okay with Lacey. We didn't have to get another fish. But yeah, that goldfish made it 7 years in a bowl, just a little small bowl.
Yep.
And so they're hardy,
Oh yeah. Yeah, they are. And
And
actually, a lot of people put goldfish in their ponds, which is really not a great idea because they like to. If you get a male and a female in there, they reproduce like crazy, and they're fun
how do you know on a fish?
that they're goldfish.
Know that they're male or female. I mean, seriously, it ain't like most animals.
I haven't figured that one out yet.
Okay, so if it happens, it happens.
Yeah.
It's not like you'd say, "Hey, I want a male or I want a female."
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm not sure at this
Okay.
point.
All right, fair enough. I didn't mean to put you on a spot, but I was just thinking,
Yeah.
we'll move along.
Move along.
Next. I'll tell you what, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Talk to James about his koi pond, and we're also going to just touch on some business aspects of this. So stay where you are. We appreciate you. Don't you go anywhere. We'll be right back with more Profit Time here on Turfs Up Radio. Your industry, your station. Welcome back. Welcome back. I got James Daly here with me. We're talking about koi ponds a little bit and how he transitioned from mowing lawns to koi ponds and landscaping.
Yep.
So I get that, that is a pretty good connection, isn't it? I mean, landscaping to koi ponds, it can be one in its own.
Oh, definitely. Most definitely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what do you normally try to do around a koi pond as far as landscape wise? I mean,
it again, depending on the yard and where it's at. I mean, plant selection, you definitely want a lot of water plant material because that helps filtrate the water.
Yeah.
Keep it clean. So the more plant material in the pond or around the pond that takes in that nutrients from the fish is really good for you. And then outside of that, obviously you want to try to keep it as tidy as you can too, because the more debris that falls into the pond, obviously the more troubles that you do get.
Yeah.
But it just depends on the situation.
Do many people start off like smaller than what they think they're going to want?
Yes.
And have you upgrade? Because I could see me doing that. Like, okay, well, I don't want anything that big. But then you have it a little bit, and it's like, oh, this is pretty cool. I'd like to have something bigger.
Yeah, and whenever I go in and look at a customer that I'm putting a pond in for, I'm always thinking to the future because I know, like for myself, when I put my pond in, it was only a 10 by 15 pond, and I'm expanding my pond this summer to I'm going to do a spillway into another bigger pond that's going to be a 25 by 30.
Oh my!
So I'm going big, and
yeah.
I like to whenever I set things up. If I've got the idea that maybe they're going to want to add on in the future,
right?
I'm looking at that site at that point, saying, okay, if we come back in 5 years, where we're going to add on to this pond at?
Any problem with animals getting into them?
Oh yeah, here and this is funny because with retention ponds now being open all the time, a lot of the blue heron are moving into neighborhoods and stuff and eating customers' fishes, and that's a problem. You got to watch that. And then obviously your raccoons, they like to get to them sometimes as well. I'm not sure the neighborhood cat's going to do a whole lot, but really when you're building your pond too, you got to keep that in mind. So you got to build caves for the fish to hide out in, so that if let's say a blue heron shows up in your yard, at least they've got a fighting chance and they've got some place to go hide.
Right.
But that's the biggest problem now is with the open water, so much open water, these blue heron are moving into neighborhoods and they're eating people's fish.
And they're eating the fish.
Yep.
No warranty on that for sure.
No,
We had
not at all.
we installed a landscape in one of our areas. Prospect, it's called. It doesn't mean anything to you probably, but anyway, just a nicer area, but it's out a little.
Mm-hmm.
And but that night we put the landscape in. That night the deer came and ate probably I don't know. Kyle could tell you for sure, but I mean 80% of their ornamentals that we put in.
Smorgasbord.
It was like, and she called and she was like, "Are these warranted?" And I was like, "No." Well, and she was frustrated at first, but then she was she understood it that it wasn't anything we did.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, but yeah, she got up the next morning to sit on her deck and look at her landscape, and a lot of it was gone to where the deer had come in and eaten her ornamentals up. So yeah, so I thinking about fish. I mean, whatever something gets to the fish, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's that. Unfortunately, that's nature takes its course. And
so, what do you do besides fish now? The koi ponds.
Landscaping is the only other thing.
Is it
I
so
do.
Landscaping and ponds and
that's it.
How much is that taken off your mind from like mowing and?
Oh, a lot.
You blew grass in my mulch and.
Yeah, I mean I like it a lot more simply because I can schedule around a pond where mowing I had to be there every Monday, no matter what. So with landscaping, I get a little more freedom. I'm in Louisville,
flexibility.
Kentucky. Yeah, I'm in Louisville, Kentucky.
Yeah, you showed up here on a Monday when
exactly. So I didn't have to be out mowing grass. I didn't have to worry about sharpening blades or greasing fittings or whatever it may be.
Right.
And it's believe it or not, I find it so much more relaxing and easier than.
And how many how many people do you have help you with your ponds? Just you?
I've got 1.5 guys at this point.
I got you.
So it's there's 3 of us, and the one full-time guy that I brought on, this guy he's young and he's energetic to learn, and I think he'll be with me for a long time.
Good deal.
Yeah. Yep.
So you don't have that stress of who's showing up and
exactly.
Can they back a trailer up or can they? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. you lived that for a few years, right?
Yeah. The crinkled bedsides and the taking 20 minutes to back a trailer into a parking spot, and it's like, come on.
Yeah. So the frustrations provided the impetus to move it along to koi ponds and landscaping, right?
Yep.
I hear you. Well, speaking of, landscaping and plants and fish, and you see my weather thing here. I wanted to talk about that. What just gotten, how does it affect fish? I guess Bam sent the thing out talking about, how they think it's going to be drier now in the Midwest and the Ohio Valley area than initially their long-term forecast was for summer. How does that affect the koi ponds at all? Any?
The only thing on the koi ponds that affects is, really just water level, just maintaining a water level.
And how do you do that with a pond? Is it they don't have a constant supply of water, do they? Or do they?
You can, yes, you can. I try to get people to, if they've got an irrigation system, to put an autofill valve in the pond so that it constantly maintains that water level. If not, when it drops down and they have to add a bunch of chlorinated water at one time, then they're having to put the dechlorinator in the water at the time that they fill the pond back up. So if you're dosing it a little bit at a time.
So how does the autofill feature work? That sounds pretty cool.
Like your toilet bowl.
So it's on a float.
It's on a float. So when the float drops, it fills up, and it maintains it all the time.
Does rainwater mess it up?
No.
The rainwater is okay.
Yeah. I mean, it will mess with the
pH balance,
the pH balance in the pond. But like at home, I catch all my water in barrels to fill my ponds up. So it's I would rather have that versus the city water.
I see. All right. Yeah, that I didn't even think of that on the ponds, but that's because I don't do ponds. But
Yeah.
that would be, yeah, if somebody's got an irrigation system, that'd be the way to do it, isn't it?
Yep.
And will they just run a line over to it?
Yep. Put the autofill valve in the skimmer, and it'll maintain the water level all the time.
Yeah. Damn. Somebody figured that out too, hadn't they
Oh,
already?
yes, they did.
Yeah, absolutely. And you do maintenance on those as well?
Yeah. Yep.
Nice. Nice. Well, even with ponds and landscapes and mowing at all, it's something I want to talk about and get your input on too is what I was going to talk about today before you walked in the door.
Surprise.
But no, we're glad you did. But the definition of a good deal, how much pressure do you get with ponds, since we're on ponds, of, well, I can get it done over here for this. How much competition do you have, I guess?
Very little.
And
I think that's more of a better reason why I got into the ponds, is because a lot of the guys are getting out of it. They're not wanting to do the maintenance on these ponds. Now, there's guys out there that'll build the bubble rocks and the pondless waterfalls. But as far as doing the pond work itself, there's not a lot of guys out there that want to really mess
how
with
does a
that anymore.
pondless waterfall work?
Well, basically, you put your tank underground.
All
So
right.
basically, you've got what they call aqua blocks that you build. It's like milk crates.
Okay.
You bury those in the ground. You put a liner down. You put those inside the liner, and that's going to hold your water for your fall. And then you've got a pump that pumps the water up to the spillway, and then it runs back down into the.
How do the fish live in that?
That you
Or,
don't. That
or it's
pondlet is
strictly
just water.
it's strictly just water
Yeah.
feature.
Yeah. So it's no open water, so you don't have to worry about the insurance company calling you and saying, "Hey, you got open water source in your backyard. You don't have a fence up. We got problems." Pondless water feature gives you the sound of the water without the risk of drowning, let's say.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yep.
And it's nice to know about the competition
Yeah.
too. Yeah, that was a side benefit to it as well. But I'm sure, or you remember it from your landscaping days, some too, where somebody says, "Well, I want a good deal." What's a? I've often wondered, and my dad and I talked about this a lot. You know, and he helped me understand how to respond. I want a good deal, but what is a good deal? I mean, is it price? What, in your opinion? And it's not wrong or right, and I'm setting you up.
Yeah.
What what do you consider a good deal for a pond or for a landscape or for whatever service it is?
A good deal for a pond or a landscape
And
is putting the right things in the right places and giving the customer the best product that you can put out. That's the good deal.
that's the
The
good.
price has nothing to do with it.
Thank you very much. That's exactly what I've got on my sheet. The prices should have, it should be incidental to the good deal.
Exactly.
To me, in the way I was taught by my dad, was it's the good deal is, first of all, is his definition of a good deal. It doesn't mean it's right for everybody, but is when the buyer and the seller agree on a price for the service or product that they're buying.
Yeah.
That's the good deal.
Yep.
Now, what we do as the seller to create the perceived value in what they're buying from us is where the consumer becomes comfortable in saying, yeah, that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wish we could, for our industry as a whole, get more people to understand that a good deal is not a cheaper price.
No, it's not.
Because normally we spend more money on a cheaper price in the end result than we do on the good deal that we got going in.
Exactly.
And we see it a lot with landscape work.
Mm-hmm.
Now even, going back and having to fix things that somebody's done. Do you run into any of that with pools when there were more competitors or ponds, not pools, where somebody just did something to be less expensive for somebody and now you got to go back and solve that problem?
Funny you say that, because I've got a customer that I've been working on her little pond for several years, and she's older, she's retired, so her money situation has changed, and I kept on telling her over the years, we need to put a new spillway in. The way this one was built, I'm assuming her husband probably built it because it was just everything was kind of makeshift. And I go, we need to at least rebuild this spillway because you're constantly having troubles with this. And I gave her a price, and she's, well, that's a little more than I want to. Well, she paid somebody else to come in and rebuild her spillway last year.
Yeah.
And when I saw it for the first time this year when we were out, I go, we're going to be fixing this, and we've already set up a time to go and fix it right.
Right.
So, and this was one of those situations where she thought finding a cheap guy to do it was going to take care of her problem, and it's just now she's going to be spending more money with us. Had she just let us do it, we would have
done it right the first time.
Exactly.
And that's where I think the value in a good deal comes into play. Is it goes back to, the price is forgotten long after the service is remembered.
Yes.
You know, and that's the reality of it. And I want you guys that are listening to us today, you don't have to be doing ponds to understand that this mindset applies to anything that you do in your business.
Even mowing grass,
landscaping, lighting, irrigation, whatever it is.
Yep.
Don't worry about being the least expensive contractor in your market. I mean, that's fine if that's the way you want to go, but also know that there's a certain type of buyer that does want the deal.
Yeah.
And that buyer is normally the person that has no loyalty to you for anything moving down the road.
And they complain about everything.
And yeah, they're the 95-5 rule people that, 5% of your people are 95% of your problems. And it's normally the people that pay the least.
Yep.
And that's, I want to be a takeaway from our show today is that aspect of it, that don't feel like to be a good deal that your customers are getting the best price. Mm-hmm. They get a fair price for training, education, and knowledge. That's the definition of a good deal. Mm-hmm. We're willing to give you a fair price for our training, education, knowledge that we have to do whatever it is you want done.
Yeah.
Put your koi pond in, put the right plants in that pond, or put the right plants around your pool. Mm-hmm. We see that done a lot where we go back and have to deal with that. My plants are dying around my pool. Well, it's because we got chlorinated water
inundating the plants.
And, these plants aren't designed to live on chlorinated water, and I know there's different products that can be used to make water safe too now in pools, but still at the end of the day, when you got a man, that's not the right word, but a man-made product to make something right coming into a plant that's not used to what it's getting because of the splash over of that. A lot of times it's not our fault, but it is our problem.
Yeah.
The fix. And so, that's a big thing to learn. How about website? Do you have a website?
Yes, I do.
Where you promote your ponds?
You know what? I've got a little bit on there, but I don't. It's one of them things that I don't keep up with my website very well. But right. Yeah, I do have ponds listed on my website, and it's at dailylawnandlandscape.com, and I promote a lot more on my Instagram page.
Do you?
Yeah. And
how's that work for you?
That's done really well for me. I've picked up some work off of that. I'm not on the other page, the FB page.
Yeah.
I don't do a whole lot there.
Yeah.
But I've talked with other people that have done well promoting on that page.
Right.
I just choose not to be there.
It's different buyers sometimes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
We actually, in the Profit Circle tomorrow night, we've got a gentleman with Thrive, which is a national company. He's going to talk about websites and the importance of websites for your company, regardless of what it is you do. Because that's where people go now. I mean, you and I are old enough to remember the yellow pages, right?
Yeah.
Everybody let their fingers do the walking. Now they let their fingers do the walking on a keyboard to find you.
Exactly.
And if you don't believe that, you need to understand that. And I want you guys to understand that whether you're a one truck operation or a multi crew company, uh, you need presence. You need presence with a website uh, to attract a better client. Referrals are great. We all love them. No pun intended. It's like shooting fish in a barrel,
Mm-hmm.
right? But
Yep.
I mean, referrals are great, but normally there's not enough referral work to keep us busy.
Yeah.
And when I say us, a company that wants to scale or be larger, they're great, you know, but at the end of the day, we need to think about what we're doing to get our social presence out there. Instagram works good for you, evidently.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And then Google as well. In fact, if I use Thrive,
oh, do you?
yeah, they take care of my whatever the rankings, and my
Right.
representative tells me you got to get on your Google page and update your Google page. That's
Yep,
where you're going to
Katie.
get. That's where you're going to get most. Yeah, yeah, and that's where you're going to get a lot of your referrals from the internet are off of that activity on the Google page. So if
Yeah.
you don't have a Google page, do something simple. It doesn't take long. I'm horrible when it comes to computers, but I set up my own Google page and it's done wonders for me. Now,
Yeah.
Thrive takes care of it for me now, but uh,
Right.
that's something that would definitely give you a boost up in your area.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want you guys to understand it was regardless of the market that I go to, there's a lot of guys that say I don't have a website, and there the, the good thing is that gap's closing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Uh, but we as a business owner need to understand we need to have a website. And Dan Casser is going to talk about that tomorrow night for us in the Profit Circle. But I'm looking forward to his presentation on that, quite honestly, James, because I mean, we we make an effort to be seen.
Yeah.
I mean, we do. I mean, uh, we're not a huge company by any stretch of the imagination, but at the end of the day, we want to be seen. We want those calls, and I'm glad to hear you say, hey, hey, it's just three of us, but I have a website and I do Instagram, and what would be your best recommendation for our listeners of why even as a small company you do that?
Well, you always want your name out there. Uh, so unfortunately, work doesn't always come when we want it. But if you're always when you're always promoting it out there, uh, you're going to get calls trickling in. And I'll be honest with you, I track all my phone calls that come in,
Yeah.
and probably 90% of my calls come from Google search.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that ought to tell you right then and there that if you're not on Google, you're not going to get the calls. And I turn away a lot of stuff. So
Is there a busy season for koi ponds?
yeah, spring, basically springtime
Is
cleanup
it?
starting up, and
Okay.
then fall
Is it?
closing everything
So
down.
it's kind of like mowing and landscaping. I
Yeah,
mean, people want things cleaned up and then cleaned up in the fall
yeah,
again.
and shut down properly, and then if they're running their pond through the winter months, we will want to make sure that we get all the plant material, the leafy material cleaned up out of the pond before
What do you do with it?
we.
Does it store from season to season, or you just
Oh,
replace it
oh,
in
the
the
plant
spring?
material you leave in the pond. You just basically you cut all the foliage off and pull the foliage out so that it doesn't drop to the bottom of the pond and
All right.
decompose. So basically,
So the leaf surface is cut off,
yes, yep,
and so you got the root system that's
it's still
still
in the pond.
in the pond.
Yep, and it comes back every year.
Now, is the water temperature what dictates that? Kind of like our ground temperature dictates grass growth. Water warms up, then the
The plant
the
material
plant
comes. Yeah.
material starts coming on again.
Yep.
It's crazy how similar it is.
Oh, it is.
Uh,
Big,
yeah.
and plants need fertilizer in the water as just as well as the plants above ground. So
Is that a separate licensing? I'm sure.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Nice. You've educated me a lot on ponds. I've never really thought about this much about And I'm not saying we're going to go out and do koi ponds, but I mean, it's,
Your guys are going, no, we don't want any more.
you know, but I tell you, I mean, recently we have had it holiday lighting and landscape lighting,
I started holiday lighting this year.
and they were both good for us,
Yeah.
and for the same reasons that you discussed on why you got out of mowing predominantly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, uh, they require a little more time and talent, but they're good income producers, they're good profit centers,
Mm-hmm.
and if it rains today, it's okay.
Yeah.
Tomorrow when we go to do the job, it's still the same number of fixtures getting installed. And now you might get behind because of your work volume,
Yeah.
but still, it's not like when you were out there trying to mow lawns and spray lawns that, mowing them specifically this time of the year, you get a day or two behind because of rain. Now it takes you 60% more time to do the job, but you're still getting $12.40,
Yep.
to do it. What's pricing look like in that world? I mean, is everything based on labor hours and
Yeah.
material, or how do you do it?
Yeah. Labor, material. So, but it's pretty lucrative.
Yeah.
I mean, people, let's just say, for instance, a 7 by 10 pond, 8 by 10 pond. I mean, you're looking at eight grand easy. And it typically you can do one of these ponds in a day and a half, 2 days.
And okay.
So
And margin on one of those things is what?
about 35 to 40%.
Not bad.
No.
It's a lot of grass cutting.
Yeah, it is. And that's what I like about it. I
Yeah.
can go out and do one of these jobs and I don't have to worry about fueling the trucks up or hoping the guys don't get in a wreck or whatever
Yeah.
it may be.
Yeah.
Or
Right.
tear something up. And that was always my biggest thing was, if you're on the job site mowing grass and you break something, just tell the customer. 9 times out of 10, they're fine with it. But I just got
Right.
tired of the customer calling me saying, James, I think your guys broke something.
Right. I got a
Accidents
rug
happen.
ran over,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Accidents happen, and I don't have to worry about that as much with the ponds.
with the ponds.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad it's probably added a few years to your life.
Yeah, I think so.
With less stress and worry and
Yeah, there's still stress, but yeah.
yeah. Oh, I can imagine. I mean, I guess when it gets really hot, you worry about the water in all the ponds.
Yeah.
Or I would think so because I remember my sister had just a swimming pool, and I know when it was an above ground pool, it wasn't an in ground pool, and evidently above ground pools are harder to deal with than in ground pools. And but she would just stress when it would get hot, just trying to keep that water balance
clean.
right.
Yeah. Yep.
And
which with ponds, with the plant material helps with a lot of that.
Yeah.
So you try to get the right amount of plant material for the pond. But again, if it's if it's out in the wide open sun, that's more of a challenge than one that's got partial shade.
What do the fish like? Do the fish like shade?
Shade.
Do they?
Yep. So, that's where you got your caves, you got your water lilies on top to help shade. Plus, it helps protect them from the predators as well. So, yeah.
Is there a temperature range that the koi do better in?
I couldn't tell you for sure.
But they adapt.
I would say that, I don't think that really matters. It's just the food and the water quality is really.
Here's a silly question for you.
Got a silly answer.
Okay, that's fair enough. Does anybody ever put anything other than koi in them?
Yes.
Have you ever had a customer, not put koi in there, but put bluegill in there?
I've got a customer that's got bass and bluegill in his pond.
In his pond.
Yeah. So he doesn't fish for them. I'd fish for him, but
is the maintenance similar?
Yeah, it's not. It's
okay.
Nothing different.
Okay.
Just different fish.
Just different fish.
They're harder to see.
Because their color probably because most of those are black bottoms.
Yeah,
I guess.
Well, dark bottoms, but
dark.
Yeah, I mean you can see them over nighttime more with the lighting that's in them, but during the daytime, unless you're in the right angle, they're kind of harder to see. Where the koi, you can sit back at 10, 15 feet, and you can see the koi fish swimming around.
Now, do you do the lighting as well for the ponds?
Oh yeah. Oh, that's what? If you don't have the lighting, you're missing out on half the fun because nighttime. In fact, I posted something on my Instagram page last week that I went out and sat next to my pond and the fish all came up. They thought I was feeding them. I was out there
Yeah.
having a drink, and they came up and they were all active and everything. And it's because I had the pond lights in it, and I could see them swimming of a nighttime. That's fun.
I bet that was fun.
Oh, I enjoy it.
I always wanted, like, at my house, I've got a little bit of a berm or a hill that comes down by my deck, and I always wanted like a little waterfall coming down that thing.
Well, let's get it
With
going.
Oh God, not now, man! It's no pun intended. This water over the dam now. But I always did think that would be really cool, just because it ain't a big steep hill. It's really not at all. But it would just have looked really neat to have like a little waterfall run into a pond, or actually what I thought a pool, but just couldn't afford it at the time to do that. That would have been really cool because I've seen these pools with those waterfalls where they come into the pool.
Yep.
But I thought, oh my God, that would have really been nice.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that, when you want to do it, you can't. When you can, you don't want the
You
headache.
don't want the headache. Yeah.
But
once I'll tell you what, once people get a water feature and they hear that water all the time, they wish they would have had it 20 years earlier.
Yeah. Kind of like my hip surgery.
Yeah, there you go.
I waited forever for that damn thing. I gimped around forever. And then after I did it, I was like, God, why'd I wait?
So are you running the marathon for the Derby?
No. Daniel did, though. There's Daniel's marathon picture. He actually did run a marathon.
There you go.
My God, he decided. Oh my God, true that. I hear you. But no, Daniel decided one year. I don't know. He's like January or something that he was going to run a marathon in May.
Wow,
and did it. And
that's impressive.
Yeah. So that's why I hung his picture up there. I mean, I don't think I've ran 26 miles in my life, but I mean, maybe collectively in sports in high school doing wind sprints and shit, but just a run.
Yeah.
I don't.
Not on purpose.
Not on purpose. Now, it might have been purposeful running, but not on purpose running. Oh my God. Well, hey, I appreciate you hopping on here with me today, James. This was certainly a pleasure, man. I'm glad you came to see us, and
it was fun.
It was really great, and evidently we've got several people that were interested in the koi pond thing aspect of it, and I appreciate your knowledge, sharing that as well with them. So
great add-on service that it doesn't take a lot.
How much training does it take to do something like that? Because we do talk about diversification a lot.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the getting the pond water quality right, that takes a little bit of knowledge there. But as far as building these things, a lot of your suppliers provide classes, one-day classes that can teach you how to build these ponds. And take the time, go take a class and add it to your the money stream, and
you get a leak.
Happy.
What do you do? Drain the pond and seal it, or do you have to normally replace?
Typically, the leaks on all the leaks that I've ever come across in a pond situation, it's always, if it's got a fall, it's always in the fall somewhere. So, or at the skimmer. So basically, with the freeze and thaw, where the liner attaches to the skimmer, a lot of times it'll pull apart there and leak, which is an easy fix. Or if you've got
when you say easy, what's an easy fix?
An easy fix is taking the liner seam apart and resealing it and putting it back together. Because basically the water gets in behind the liner and the skimmer and it freezes, and then it kind of opens up that area, and then you'll get water to leak out there. So that's an easy fix. Typically, if somebody calls in the spring and says, "Hey, my pond was fine last year, it's leaking down," I look at the skimmer first, and then I go up to the spillway or the falls, and typically that's where it's at.
That's where it's at.
Yeah, ground settles, ground moves, and with the freeze and thaw, and that's where you typically get your leaks at. Very seldom is it in the pond itself.
Okay. When you put one in the ground, that brings up another question. Do you put a sand base down, or do you dig a hole and do what then?
You dig the hole, and I use it underlayment. It's like a felt material.
Okay.
You put the underlayment down, and then depending on, if you're using really big rocks, then I put the underlayment down liner, and then another underlayment that the big rocks will sit on, and that just gives you more protection to keep it from punching through.
I got you. All right. Well, here we are up on it. I mean, it was a pretty quick hour.
That was.
And for not knowing anything about ponds.
And we were going to only talk for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, like 10 minutes. 10 minutes. True that. But hey, I appreciate everybody's input and your text on it. Certainly, as always, you guys make the show what it is. James, I'd like to thank you again for hopping on unexpected. You know, I mean, that's a lot of pressure to ask. Hey, man, you want to go on the radio with me?
Yeah, I was a little nervous at first.
But no, it's when you know what you're talking about, it's easy. You know, it's easy. But hey, I appreciate each and every one of you guys for listening, and look forward to seeing you guys on Wednesday. And in the meantime, if you have any pond questions, don't call me. No. I'm sure James wouldn't mind helping you out. He's a nice guy, man. But hey, it is another revenue stream. It's something to look at. And it goes back to, you don't want to be a jack of all trades and a master of none. But, you know, maybe you can look at something within your business and, you know, says, maybe this isn't creating the profit dollars that I want. So maybe I can look at doing something like ponds that does have less competition, the needs out there, and it's a niche need, I'm sure, right? Is that fair?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a niche need, or probably a niche want, more importantly.
Yep.
And you know what we always say, people pay more for what they want versus what they need.
Exactly.
So with that being said, you guys have a great Monday. We'll see you Wednesday. And remember, profit is not a dirty word.